Hi, I'm Cheryl Waters of KEXP, and we're live on KEXP from home. And I'm very excited to see a lot of people are watching. Been fun watching the comments, seeing people getting really excited for our guest today. Please welcome Kishi Bashi.
Hey, thanks for
Hi,
having me.
Daru. Thanks for
Hey,
coming.
yeah, totally. Thanks for this is my first in studio live stream, so I'm excited.
And you're at home, and you're in Athens, right?
Yeah, Athens, Georgia.
People get so excited, especially when they talk to you from Seattle, and they are so eager to say that you're from Seattle, and they'll call you Seattleite. But you were just born here. You moved away almost pretty young, right?
Yeah, I moved away when I was 5, so I kind of remember things. I remember Mount St. Helens, that explosion, seeing it on TV. That's about it. I remember it was, yeah, it wasn't as rainy as people remind me it was.
Well, we love that you have that connection to Seattle. And but how long have you been in Athens now? I know every time I've spoken to you, you've been there for a long time.
Yeah, pretty much since I started Kishi Bashi like 8 years ago. This is
What
where I
was
got.
what was the draw there for you?
Well, I used to play in Of Montreal, the band that's based here, and it's
Mhm.
just kind of like it's in the middle of nowhere. It's this college town, so it's got this really progressive and music indie rock scene that's really supportive, like an art scene. So it's easy
I
to
remember
thrive
when
here.
you were in Montreal. I'd seen you play with that band many times.
Yeah, they made me wear leotards and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So,
Kevin, he's a crazy one that way. He likes to please the crowd.
oh yeah,
Um, well, I'm so excited that you're here with us today. Your albums have always been so beautiful and complex, and Omayari is absolutely no exception. And you're going to play some songs for us today, but set the scene a little bit for the record. I know it was inspired by your visits to past World War II internment camps where Japanese descendants were incarcerated. And can you tell me a little bit about that personal journey or the circumstances that led to you wanting to make this record?
well, I mean, a lot of it has to do with just like a lot of anti-immigration rhetoric that was starting to spread around, like several years ago, probably with the start of the current administration. But I think a lot of it is like I had always known about the history, but I really wanted to know like how it was that people became so feared, just an immigrant population like that. And so that's when I started researching about it and traveling. And then meanwhile, I had to make an album, so I was also writing songs, and I also happened to take a filmmaker with me. So that's kind of the beginning of what became this movie, because I was learning so much as I was traveling, and then it was kind of interesting. I was learning so many interesting things. I felt like I needed to share that with my listeners too.
Well, I'd love to hear some music, and I definitely want to dig a little bit more into the record and talk more about that in the film. But you're going to play a song for us. This one is called Summer of 42.
Yep. What are the things we wanted? The same as anyone, just a hand to hold a little. After all is said and done, and the days are long and open, 'cause I had a view, the summer of 42, when I was in love with you. We counted stars above us, we dream of Xanadu. We sneak off to the desert, the sound of your fancy shoes. The first day that I met you, I wrote down in my book, I'm in love with you, I'm in love with you. Oh, I'm in love with you. Oh, I'm in love with you. Ooh, I'm in love with you. Oh, I'm in love with you. The years have gone asunder, the chaos of the war made men of everybody, but her memories I adore. We named our favorite sunsets, but I remember very few. The summer of 42, when I was in love with you. The years have turned to ages, and I know you're someone new. I look for you with every breath, a soldier wrecked with solitude. Climb to the highest mountain, and I shouted to have you. I was in love with you. I was in love with you. Thanks.
You're listening to Kishi Bashi live on KEXP at home, and that song "Summer of 42" comes from the album Omoyari. That came out almost exactly 1 year ago.
It's been a while, and originally the movie, it was supposed to be the movie, and the album was supposed to be this singular statement, but movies just take way longer, so still working on it, but finishing up this summer.
And obviously, you're not touring now. Did you get a chance to tour a bit on this record?
Oh yeah. So we did. We actually came to Seattle.
Oh, I remember that. I was
Yeah.
at the show.
Oh, great. Sorry, I couldn't make any radio station. It was a quick one. But we had a summer tour actually, and then we had a big like headlining rock band tour, which is awesome. So we got, we really got to do that. We had to postpone our April one, but
That's great because, as you know, so many bands have records coming out now, and they aren't able to go out on the road. They aren't able to tour right now, which is heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And especially so I've seen a lot of bands, it's their debut record is coming out. Their first time, they want to hit the road. They were going to blast South by Southwest. And, how do you make this statement as a new band? You're so excited. Maybe you're on your first record label. And we're just having to find out how to navigate our way through new territory right now. And I appreciate you doing things like this.
Yeah, I really feel bad the music, like to make it, when I say make it, to have a successful musical career, it's effort and it's talent, and it's also like a little bit of luck. And this is the time when you pretty much kind of run out of luck. But, it's not forever. So I feel like I feel like people always have a desire for live music.
They do, and we're getting so many comments. People are absolutely loving just the first song so far. We've got so much more, everyone. I'm so excited. Tell me about that song, "Summer of 42."
Yeah, so that's 1942, and that's the first year that the full year that they had internment camps. And I think when I started writing songs, I was looking for. It's very easy to go into a dark place and an angry place, but then what really inspired me was the resilience and the humanity of the people who survived, who were able to come out of this, pick themselves up and then literally turn it around and have a successful, careers or a future. And I think like that's what inspired me. These like love. So that was a love story about a couple that met in a camp, but ultimately I think she found someone else. So it's kind of, the guy went off to war and they came back and then kind of looked for her and she wasn't there. But that's like a real story, not an actual story I heard, but I just made it up. But could have been.
Obviously, you were very greatly inspired by the camps and this journey that you took. When did you first visit the camps, and what was the catalyst for you to visit them?
I think there's a lot of with the new administration, there's a lot of anti-immigrant rhetoric and like Islamophobia and like xenophobia in general. And I think it was exactly the 75th anniversary of Pearl Harbor, so that really got me into kind of researching a lot of. I was like, wow, this is really the same thing, because I remember there's somebody brought up that there's precedent for the Muslim ban in the Japanese American incarceration. and like, you know, we have the right to lock up foreigners, you know, or to surveil them, you know. And so I think that really kind of angered me, and I went to research it, and I realized there's a lot of similarities. You know, the kind of fear you have against foreigners is something that's universal. It's a universal thing that exists, and it's so easy to get into that mindset, but it takes a lot of courage and education and compassion to not fall into that trap, you know.
Can you paint a picture of the camps for us?
Yeah, so like imagine like being uprooted from Seattle or Los Angeles, you know, from your home that you have to leave behind, and you get on a train and you show up, and basically there's just these like barracks of just wood panel barracks, and you have no privacy. There's a bunch of beds, lined beds, and they stick you with your family into them. I think for the first few months you're just eating canned food, you know, and then eventually they just don't care. So it's up to you to kind of provide your own food. And these are all in like arid desert areas, that land that nobody wants. A lot of them are unfortunately on Indian reservations, somewhere Indian land, you know. It's basically undesirable, unlivable land that you have to kind of make a home for yourself, you know. So,
And what are they like now? Are there museums there? Are there cultural sites?
Yeah, some have them. The closest one to Seattle's Minidoka, Idaho, and they have like a little museum. Wyoming, they all have like some museums, and there's also pilgrimages, and so there's communities that go back there every year to kind of celebrate and memorialize, and just kind of commune, you know, with each other.
Did you also meet people along the way as well as seeing the physical space?
Yeah, I mean, for the past 3 years, I've been, you know, interviewing people, and I go to Wyoming, Heart Mountain, Wyoming, and Cody, and I go there every year.
And you've taken your daughter there, yeah?
Yeah, I take my parents tagged along last year too, because it's a, you know, this is beautiful mountain, you know, so it's like we hike it. It takes like a whole day, but it's like it's just something that my family has just shown interest in, and so I try and include them.
How many of the spots have you visited? You mentioned that in some interviews that I've read that some of the locations, you know, have this horrific history, yet, especially in the summer, they could be physically beautiful. And
yeah,
I can imagine that brought up conflicting emotions for you.
Sure. Yeah, like when I went to Manzanar the first time, and it's under the Sierra Nevada mountains, you know, it's beautiful. And you're trying to think of, you know, because you've studied it, and I went with a bunch of Brown University students, and we're all like excited to go to our first, you know, internment camp, incarceration center. Actually, the one in Arizona was really hot, and it was awful. But like, it's difficult because if you don't have a story, it's just a place. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. If you don't have a story, or if you don't have something to attach a humanitarian like idea to, then it's not. It's just a location. So sometimes it hits me in other ways, like when I hear about something and then I go there and I think about it, or even if I left it and I think about the connection of how I felt at that time. It's different for everybody, I guess.
Were you writing songs along the way, or was this something where you did this journey and then you kind of hunkered down and it all kind of bubbled up?
Yeah. So I wrote. There's a couple that I wrote either on the journey. There's one theme for Jerome, which I guess I could play for you guys, which is I wrote at Jerome, the melody, you know, and that's in Arkansas. Is that a good segue for?
Yeah, you want to play theme for Jerome?
Sure, I'll play it. Yeah.
Great.
Okay, so theme for Jerome, Arkansas is like this. It's in like eastern Arkansas, and it's kind of it's a swampy, desolate kind of place, but really what kind of struck me was this is about the loss of culture, you know. So it's about like the loss of like a very vibrant immigrant culture that basically self-suppressed themselves in order to survive. It's a loss of language and the inability to communicate. It starts with a little Japanese melody. I'll After today, we speak the new. With every word you walk from the comfort of my hands. 'Cause after all, we fight the war with enemies unseen. 'Cause here we are in Jerome. Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. 悲しみ触れてもあなたなる日心の友よ忘れてThese words today, how many times I'd smile if you remember me with this song. La 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 There was a girl, she fell in love, and on the sun-dry land it settled in, started again. And when they sleep, she'd sing this melody to her beloved sons, forgotten words from Japan. La 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 la
You're listening to Kishi Bashi live on KEXP at home. That is theme for Jerome, Forgotten Words from Omoyari. And you speak Japanese.
I do. 日本語喋ります。
Not every family that immigrate. I know one little Japanese phrase, and I was going to bring it to mind, but I didn't prepare myself for that. あなたは日本語が少しわかりますか?
少しわかります。わかります。Do you understand Japanese a little bit? Nice.
Yeah, but that's the only thing I understand. So really, a very little bit.
That's great. That's a pretty long phrase. Nice.
Not every family that immigrates to another country teaches their language to their children, and so much is lost. What are some of the other things that you found were lost when you were?
I mean, it's not about, I mean, in addition to, like, choosing to suppress your own culture is like a defensive mechanism, you know, for a lot of immigrant cultures, communities. It's just, it's kind of staggering to see, like, to kind of realize that, you know, that almost every single immigrant has to do this to some extent, you know, suppress their culture so they can fit in, you know. And I think what I learned is that, I think overall the message with this movie, you know, with the film that's coming out, is that it's actually okay to be bicultural, to be from a different place, because this country is really founded on immigrants. You know, everybody's pretty much an immigrant in this country. So it's like having this this comfort of being bicultural and having, you know, a culture that you can be proud of, and also being American and believing in American democratic ideals, you know, I think it's this kind of new American that I'm excited to be, you know, a part of, you know, new America, new Americans, you know. So.
Tell me about the title of the record, Omoyari. I understand it doesn't really have a direct translation in English.
Yeah, it's like it's something you have to have omoyari for somebody is to have like compassion or consideration. Like so you think about that person, what they would make them feel comfortable or why they're so sad or like, you know, and it's Japanese people use it for guests. They use it for people who are in trouble, you know. And so you have omoyari and it's the fundamental, you know, it's a teaching of just having compassion, you know, for another person to make society a better place or more equal, I guess.
When I've heard you talk about writing songs for this record, you said that you were writing them around the universal themes such as love and loss. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so I think like those are some things in order to empathize with somebody like 75 years ago, you know, for like a black and white photo, a dusty black and white photo is really difficult, you know. So like the way you can empathize is to kind of see similarities with them, to be like, oh, that could be like my uncle, or like, oh, this guy, you know, he got his heart broken. That's just like what happened to me, or like, you know, this reminds me of my mother. You know, she reminds me of my mother. You know, like these kind of things. And that's if you look for these humanistic emotions, then it's a universal way of like connecting with each other. And I think that's why I chose a lot of these themes. You know, instead of like anguish and oppression, you know, which are very difficult things. I kind of chose the resilience and as one of the things, but also, you know, like all these other things that we as modern people can relate to.
Someone mentioned the song we were just playing was heart wrenching. It definitely elicits a lot of emotion from people. And when you talk about the themes, one of the songs I really love, I love it lyrically, but also and thematically. But you know, when you put it to your gorgeous music, it gives it this other layer. But the song F. Delano, it's an interesting song because he's generally considered to be one of the greatest presidents in U.S. history. But the internment camps were established through an executive order by him. So you know, it's very complex.
It's complex. It's like, you know, you think you have like, you know, you think like heroes and villains or something. It's an easy way to tell a story, you know. But the reality is that people are complicated. He did great things for this country, like brought us out of the Great Depression and create all these social programs, you know, that we still depend on today. But he also failed to protect an entire race of people because he just didn't either, you know, for whatever reason, you know. So kind of bought into hysteria. And then there's also a lot of like lobbying going on from the West Coast, like white farmers who are jealous of their wealth, you know. So they kind of jumped on World War II and Pearl Harbor as a perfect opportunity to capitalize on the fear. And so it's just it's a fail, you know. Japanese American historians will cite it as a, you know, failure of leadership, you know, ultimately. So it's, you know, was he a great president? I don't know. Sure, yeah, he was a great president, but to the Japanese Americans, no. You know?
Not so much. That last song, Theme for Jerome, sort of subtitle Forgotten Words, and you were going to sing a song in Japanese, yeah?
Oh yeah, you want to hear Japanese? Okay, so
Yeah.
Since this is what is it, Asian Pacific Islander Appreciation Month or something?
Yes, Asian Pacific American Heritage Month.
Asian American Pacific Heritage Month. Okay, so let's see. This is going back to my Pacific heritage. My mom's from Okinawa, which is this island south of Japan. It's this beautiful, like small island. It's kind of like you could compare it to like the Hawaii of Japan. You know, ethnically very different than the mainland Japanese people. And they have had a really interesting relationship with mainland Japan, kind of in the way that Hawaii has with mainland America. You know. So this is a song that's it's called Nada Soso, Namida Soso, which means my tears are pouring endlessly. So is the sound that the tears are making. And this is by an Okinawan, and it's a really beautiful song. It's just kind of like, it's the sorrow of loss, not necessarily about anything particularly, but in this particular one, she's the singer is looking through an old photo book and really, really, really misses this person. And that's what it's about. So this is called Nada Soso. Let me make sure I have the right cape roll. アルバムめくりありがとう ってつぶやいたいつもいつも胸の中励ましてくれる人よ晴れ渡る日も雨の日も浮かぶあの笑顔思い出と暮らせても面影探してよみがえる日はなだそうそう一番星に祈るそれが私の癖になり夕暮れに見上げる空心いっぱいあなた探す悲しみにも喜びにも思うあの笑顔あなたの場所私が見えたらきっといつか春信じゆく晴れ渡る日も雨の日も浮かぶあの笑顔思い出と暮らせても寂しくて恋しくて会いたくて会いたくて君への思いなだそうそう。
Ah, that is so beautiful. Kishi Bashi live on KEXP at home, and that song, Nara Susu, that means tears
Sou Sou?
flowing. Sou Sou, that
Sou
means
Sou.
tears flowing endlessly.
Yeah, Sou Sou is not even Japanese. It's like Okinawan, so they have a different language there. So.
Before I forget, I want to thank all of our wonderful viewers. And if you want to ask a question in the comments, I'll try to parlay some of those to Karu. And this is a time, that was great that you just played that song. It's a time for all of us to reflect and pay homage and celebrate Asian and Pacific Islanders in our country for Asian Pacific American Heritage Month and so many amazing feats and contributions in our shared history. And observing Heritage Month has made all more vital in the wake of the COVID-19 crisis, with anti-Asian hate crimes and racism rising dramatically due to the wrongful association with the virus. And you've spoken out against xenophobia and mass incarceration. And you mentioned this a little bit earlier, but you saw parallels between xenophobia that occurred with Japanese internment camps that the U.S. has done embracing once again at the time when you started writing this record. And now, of course, we're seeing these, anti-Asian hate crimes and racism happening now. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think.
I mean, that sounds weird to say. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Concerning so a lot of this is covered in this film that I'm working on. Is after understanding the Japanese American struggle, and to come to where we are today, it's like now there's the exact same things happening to immigrants, especially like immigrant detention. So I was in Tacoma, in February protesting the Tacoma Detention Center, the Northwest Detention Center, and it's the idea of just like incarcerating immigrants, and specifically we just tend to target people of color, And I think the other thing I realized, and it's relevant to this, to my album, is that, you know, the American experience the Asian experience is one thing, but, you know, the African American experience is just this whole other beast that I had to come to terms with, you know, because I always thought, you know, I'm a person of color, I'm a minority, but, you know, it's with just the kind of criminality, because I'm making a movie about incarceration, you know, and so it's almost unethical to not talk about mass incarceration, which pretty much disproportionately imprisons people of color in this country, you know. And yeah, so is it okay to go into Angeline? Yeah, so Angeline's about convict leasing, you know. This is a song I wrote when I was traveling. You know, we went down south, we went to Birmingham, and I heard this story about this woman. She was Annie Pearl, she was an activist in Selma, and she was telling me that basically she's from Birmingham, where they, you know, her relatives worked in these steel mines, you know, and kind of like what happened, if you look up convict leasing, it's basically after Jim Crow, when Jim Crow was happening, it was a way to kind of put African American, you know, newly freed African Americans into bondage again through criminality. So they put, you know, they fine them for vagrancy and these kind of like these little petty crimes, you know, and basically re-enslave them on the same plantations they came through, but now they're convicts, you know, and they're sold to these plantations. The state was doing this. So anyways, this kind of idea of being a criminal is something that has kind of translated into, it has this legacy. And it's basically, there's a reason why there's so many black men being arrested at far greater numbers than like white people and Asian people, you know. And so I'd like to dedicate this next song. This is Angeline. It's about convict leasing, but it's really about incarceration and the unfairness of the criminality, you know, in light of, especially in light of, you know, George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery, and really it's shameful to think that, you know, the only reason why these came to light is because we have cell phones to capture what has been happening for decades, you know, for centuries, pretty much. And now people have to answer for it. So anyways, so this is about convict leasing. It's called Angeline. It's about, this one's about a coal mine. It's about being taken away and imprisoned and missing someone very, very much.
Underneath the cotton sun, freedom we had just begun, sweeter than the finest rum, with my Angeline. Home to every kind of tree, built it without anything. Life was like a peach and cream, with my Angeline. Angeline, oh Angeline, how the sweetest smile that I had ever seen. Sweet summer rain, I just want to be able to see her again. Ba-ba-da, 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 that day I was walking down the railroad tracks, I heard the sound. The sheriff, he was mighty proud, told me I had to pay. The foreman, he had come to find prison folk to work the mine. The judge was there to give me time away from my Angeline. Angeline, oh Angeline, she's the sweetest song that I could ever sing. Feeling the pain, I just want to be able to sing to her again. Ba-ba-da-da, 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 da-da-da. 7 years until I'm free, working off this prison fee. My fingers smell like kerosene in a mine in Tennessee. Every day I hold my breath, every hour I wish for death. Angeline, she'd settled west, away from Tennessee. Tennessee. Tennessee, oh Tennessee, you have the darkest veins that I have ever seen. Deep in the mine, Angeline, your memories won't let you die. Angeline, 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 oh Angeline, you're the darkest veins that I've ever seen. Sweet summer rain, I just want to be able to see you, Angeline, oh Angeline, are the sweetest smiles that I have ever seen. Sweet summer rain, I just want to be able to see you again.
Whoa, that one packs a punch. You're listening to Kishi Bashi live on KEXP at home. And Karu, Emily wrote in and said, thank you for speaking so clearly and explicitly about mass incarceration and its disproportionate impact on communities of color in America. And, you know, it is so powerful to weave activism and art together. You can reach people in a new way. I mean, thank you so much for doing that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like, you know, I saw this movie, The 13th, you know, which I encourage everybody to watch. It's like, and I watched it and, you know, and I was like, if only every single person in America would watch this movie. It's about mass incarceration, you know, and they would understand what the problem is and address it. It's like I think it's like, you know, people make statements. People have been talking about this for forever, but it's like we have to constantly remind people that there is a problem, that there is a problem, that there is a problem. You know, and I think, but as artists, we have to do it differently. So you know, we have to keeping people's interest because people are so, you know, flighty. So
Everybody write that down, the 13th.
the 13th
for myself.
Oh yeah, you should definitely watch it. It was a big movie, but yeah.
Well, speaking of activism and art and the movie, your album was also accompanied by this beautiful song film you keep talking about, and people are asking about it in the comments. When is it coming out? And one of people said, sincerely from an Indiegogo backer.
Where's my DVD? Yeah. Yeah, we're in a really good place. We had a very generous donation. So we were able to hire an editor for the final stage. So we're going to hire an editor for like 2 to 3 months.
Tell me about your team, because you took a group of people with you. You had
so my co-director is this guy Justin Taylor Smith, who I worked. He's a great like cinematographer, director. This guy Max Ritter, he's also a producer. He's our cinematographer. And then JJ Gerber's our producer. There's a girl Erin Aoyama who's part of the trip that we made, and she's also a character in the film. So,
and how did all these people get involved? Did you go searching for them, or?
I mean, they all became friends. I mean, we're really close now, but I think Justin was the first person. He's he worked on this. He's a big editor, filmmaker in the snowboard action sports community. So I was a composer. He brought me on as a composer in this big movie called The Fourth Phase, which is this massive, like, you know, double helicopters off of, you know, people jumping off of mountains with like Travis Rice, world class like athletes doing crazy stuff on mountains.
And you were like, I'm such a fan of all your action work. I have this great idea. Go to interpret.
Well, I mean, I think they wanted to take a different approach. They wanted, because most of that, a lot of that stuff is like either heavy metal, or like dubstep or something really aggressive. And I think they wanted like a cinematic sound. So they kind of approached me to do something a little bit different.
Well, I saw the trailer a while back and it is absolutely stunning. I mean, it had me captivated immediately.
Oh, yeah.
It's just such a beautiful movie. I can't wait to see more of it. I mean, how long is it going to be?
It's gonna be feature length, so like hour 45, hour and a half. Yeah, I think so. It's gonna be a mixture of history and then also the creation of this album, Omoyari, and then just there's a lot of me, I guess.
And I imagine right now it's just really difficult to say when it will have a release. I mean, even if it's finished, you probably want to, give it its due. And
well, if my Indiegogo backers are listening, we're definitely going to wrap it up this summer and probably screen it for the Indiegogo backers. And then probably do, when COVID's over, once people feel safe enough to go to movie theaters, I'll do a tour of it, I think.
Well, why don't you give us that website?
Oh, Omoyari Song Film. So Omoyari, OMOIYARI, songfilm.com. Yeah.
We'll tag team it. Omoyari
songfilm.com. I'm calling it Song Film.
That's beautiful. You want to play one more song with us?
Yeah, I guess I could do. This is a crowd favorite. When I say crowd, I mean internet crowd. This is called Honeybody. This is the last song of my last album, on Sonderlust. And I'm gonna do this because it's basically doing all these live stream. Every Sunday pretty much I've been doing a live stream, on Facebook or Instagram, mostly Facebook, but it's forced me to like. I've done every single album straight through now, so it's kind of forced me to reinterpret these songs with just guitar.
Has it been fun?
It's been fun, actually. I mean, stressful too sometimes, but then it's also like I'm also like, hey guys, this is like a free show, so give me a break, you know what I mean? So it's like, which
we
is
were
kind of
earlier about how a little bit more understanding people are right now.
Yeah, I think so. But I think
difficulties.
Oh yeah, totally. And I appreciate people like telling me that they like the live streams, because I enjoy, when people are having that much fun watching me just kind of play guitar on my couch, that makes me happy. So, so this is a forced COVID, if not for COVID, with arrangement that would never exist, if not for COVID. So, this is Honeybody. So let's see if I can remember this. Hey you, honey. Okay. Hey you, Honeybody, when you coming out for gameplay? I got my checkers out, chest bar cheesy. Oh yeah, Honeybody. Someday we want to play with you. And if you wanna bring your dice, that'd be real nice. Six-sided dodecahedron, it doesn't matter. Oh yeah, Honeybody. Someday we want to play, Honeybody. Hey. Oh, Honeybody, what you doing Sunday? Maybe sipping the Coca-Cola with me, babe. Oh yeah, Honeybody. Honeybody, Honeybody, yeah. 'Cause everybody wants a Honeybody someday. Mama said they don't grow on the trees easy. My hands down on the ground, I'm begging you to please, Honeybody, yeah. Hey you, Honeybody, one day you were lady, sitting under the tree all so shady. Oh yeah, Honeybody. Oh yeah, Honeybody. On the day we're together in the real way, under pressure and safe, it's so easy. Oh yeah, Honeybody. Oh yeah, Honeybody. Oh, Honeybody, what you doing Sunday? Maybe sipping the Coca-Cola with me, babe. Oh yeah, Honeybody. Honeybody, Honeybody, yeah. 'Cause everybody wants a Honeybody someday. Mama said they don't grow on the trees easy. My hands down on the ground, I'm begging you to please, Honeybody, yeah.
Oh yeah, Honeybody, 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 yeah. 'Cause everybody wants a Honeybody someday. Mama said they don't grow on the trees easy. My hands down on the ground. I made you to please Honeybody, yeah. And then I've gotten better at bossa nova, so I'm gonna do some bossa. It goes.
The crowd goes wild.
I've been practicing. I've improved on my bossa nova a lot thanks to COVID-19. So.
What else are you and your family doing? I know before we came online, your wife was teaching a violin lesson.
Yeah, playing a lot of Rocket League PS with my daughter, and she's really trying to get me to play Fortnite, but it's really difficult for me to get into. It's so hard.
And are you still doing the live streaming sessions, or have you already played all your songs?
I just do it every Sunday. You know, sometimes I'll do it like sometimes it's prepared, and most of the time not. So, but I'll just be there and just talk to people and play some songs and take requests. You know.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you so much for doing this today. It's always such a pleasure to see you, and it was amazing to hear you play these versions of these songs. So beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, hope to see you in person soon.
I can't wait. I'll be counting down the days.
All right.
All right. Well, until next time, it's been wonderful to see you. And thanks to all of our wonderful viewers today. And thanks to everyone who's joined us. And this community is amazing. And until next time.
Cool. All right. See you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Let's see. Bye.